How's it going? Done?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we do on this last one?
What is the purpose of a digital multimeter, a digital meter in a relation to oxygen sensors? I can't read today. B.
Okay. For the minimum and maximum voltage for a sensor. All right.
Number 2, what is the ideal voltage range for a good oxygen sensor? D.
B,
D.
D,
Yeah. No.
Is it A?
B, less than 300, above 800. Actually, yeah. B is going to be the best answer.
Number 3, when should sensor be replaced? D.
If it will not read above 700 millivolts, below 300, it probably needs replaced.
Can we exclude reuse? Use old base for diagnosis of oxygen sensor issue?
C? Okay, sole basis for diagnosing an oxygen sensor, no. No. You're gonna have to have a scan tool.
What is the advantage of using wideband oxygen sensor? A.
A?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the key words here.
Broader.
Is it D?
Mhm. Purpose of wideband is to provide information over a much broader range. Okay, that is the purpose of that. All right.
What is the exhaust air power ratio range that a wide-band oxygen sensor can protect? G?
Yep. Rich is 10-1, and Lean is 23-1. Now, we talked about this before. The two numbers. First one is what?
Lean. Rich.
No. What does this number mean?
Oh, so,
Hmm?
That's the airflow, isn't it?
the voltage.
Okay.
The voltage.
Okay, no, you're on the right track. What does this say? Air-fuel ratio,
Yeah,
meaning
air.
air.
Oh, air to fuel. Air to
Okay,
fuel.
so this is really lean, this is really rich, right?
Okay.
Okay, just wanna make sure you know what these numbers mean. Air-fuel ratio, meaning the air numbers first, it's always to 1 part fuel.
Okay.
Okay,
What is the name of the flat and thin wideband oxygen sensor introduced by Bosch? Is it A?
it is
Planar.
B, planar,
Planar.
yeah. All right. Advantage of that type of sensor?
A.
Mm-hmm. Allows faster warm-up. Use direct contact between the heater and other elements. And sandwich type, this is not something you really need to know. We don't have to hear too much about this one, but it's D. They have to say no, it's not very good. Okay. All right. Let's go to our fuel. Fuel pump lines, fuel filters, that kind of stuff. All right. After this one, this is pretty long, isn't it? We go to fuel injection, components operation. Talks a little bit about, I think there's a chapter for GDI, which is gasoline direct injection.
Did you hear me shut down?
All right, I guess it's time to close the door. All right. Components of fuel delivery system: roll the fuel tank, rollover leakage protection devices or prevention, types of fuel lines, different types of electric fuel pumps. Gas tanks do have a rollover valve and replacement to call it in case the car gets on its lid in an accident, it doesn't drain the fuel tank, cause fire. Fuel filters, a lot of cars do not have replaceable fuel filters, but some do. How to test and replace a fuel pump. Area C for ASCI.
Random question. If I were to replace like the TPMS sensors in a tire, after I do all four in the spare, how would I calibrate that?
You just have to reprogram the locations
How would I do that? With like a
Little scan tool.
with the,
Scan
depends on the vehicle. Typically you can do it with a scan tool. There's a relearn, option on typical, not on a basic code reader. It would have to be something higher end scan tool.
okay.
So what kind of car is it?
It's an Acura MDX.
They could probably do that at Honda for you.
Just figured that.
Yep,
All right.
yep. All right, fuel delivery and return systems use many, if not all, of the following components. It's going to have a fuel tank, obviously, a way to fill it, filler net, and a cap. As you know, some cars have capless systems now where you don't have to remove the gas cap, you can just put the gas nozzle right into the neck. Fuel tank pressure sensor, this is used for UVAP system diagnostics. It's gonna have a fuel pump, it's gonna have a filter of some sort, with lines, your pressure regulator, and a way to get it back if it is a return type system. Most of the fuel pumps now are dropped right in the gas tank. There's a whole fuel pump module that contains the pump, strainer, the fuel tank pressure sensor, fuel level sensor, all in one unit, okay? Fuel tanks, they don't make them out of steel anymore. The older cars have steel gas tanks. Now they're all plastic, as you probably knew already. Regardless of shape, all fuel tanks incorporated most, if not all, of the following features. Inlet tube for which fuel enters the tank, a cap of some sort, outlet leading to the fuel pump or fuel injector, fuel pump mounted within the tank, vent system, and a pickup tube fuel level sensor. If you have a problem with your gas gauge not working and the fuel level sensor is bad, you're gonna have to pull that fuel pump module out of the gas tank. Some of them you can replace the fuel level sensor separately. Sometimes you would have to replace the whole fuel pump module. Most vehicles use a horizontally suspended fuel tank. They're located in frame rails and the body components, so they protect the gas tank in the event of a crash. Fuel enters the tank through a large tube extending from the tank to an opening outside the vehicle. Onboard vapor recovery systems are added to the fuel filler neck to reduce the rapid emissions when you're putting gas in the car, okay? On-board refueling and vapor recovery. Okay. Your fuel filter cap must be able to hold a vacuum and also seal the tank, but it will relieve excess vacuum or pressure. Fuel filler tube is usually part of the fuel sender assembly or the electric fuel pump assembly. Tank venting requirements. tank has to be vented, your evap system collects the vapors, stores them in a charcoal-filled vapor storage canister to be burned later by the evap system. Okay, this is a typical fuel filler tank with the neck removed. You see a ground strap on there to prevent spark or any fueling. Check ball, kind of looks like a ping pong ball, keeps the fuel from running out in the event of a rollover. This is your onboard refueling vapor recovery system. Usually has a tube on the side of it, looks like that. Okay, right side view, fuel pump module. This little guy right here, he's kind of like a filter, a strainer. Fuel level sensor, this is the float that moves with the fuel level. Coupler between the two lines, all your connections at the top. All incorporated into one fuel tank module. On your rollover leak protection, we talked about that a minute ago, it's got that one-way check valve in there to ensure the fuel shuts off if an accident occurs. Some vehicles will have a thing that will shut the fuel pump off too. Inertia switch on a Ford, some of them do have these. What is that? That works kind of like a airbag sensor. Well, we talked about that with the steel ball in there that's gold plated that will roll across a couple of contacts if the impact is severe enough, complete a circuit for the airbag. Okay, so what this does is it will shut the fuel pump off in an accident, frontal collision. So what happens is this, if the impact is severe enough, the inertia will cause that ball to turn off the fuel pump. I had a vehicle one time, it was a Ford Expedition, I think it was, that had the lift gate struts were bad on it, and if you let go of it, it would slam really hard, and actually slam hard enough to trip that inertia switch and shut the fuel pump off. Okay, fuel lines are made of steel, nylon tubing, or fuel-resistant rubber hoses. Depending on their function, fuel and vapor lines may either be rigid or flexible. Design is dependent on pressure it must carry. The rigid fuel lines, some of them don't have rigid fuel lines, sometimes they're plastic all the way from front to back now. Fuel injection lines made of materials with high resistance to oxidation and deterioration. Because of high operating pressures, fuel injection systems will use special kinds of fittings to ensure leak-proof connections. Sometimes special unlocking tools are required to disconnect fuel lines. You've probably all disconnected fuel lines before. Usually take some special tool. This is a Ford type, kind of the same thing they use on their air conditioning. Different types of tools. All right, positive displacement pump. We've talked about those before in other systems. It's a pump that is a design that forces everything that enters the pump to leave the pump. The maximum volume has been reached. Supply port closes and discharge opens. Fuel outlet check valve closes to maintain fuel pressure when the pump shuts off. You should still have fuel pressure in the fuel lines after you shut the engine off. If you lose fuel pressure with the engine off, that check valve in the pump is probably bad. Okay? Your hydrokinetic flow pump design, that one moves fuel rapidly to create a pressure. Turbine pump is the most common type. Typical fuel pump used on a fuel injection system delivers 40 to 50 gallons per hour. The pressure 70 to 90 psi, depending on the car, the fuel pressure can be anywhere, really. It just depends on the type of system it has. If it has an old fuel injection system, it could be only 9 to 13 pounds. If it's a direct injection, it can be 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. Okay, your fuel pump module has your fuel sender in it, the pump, reservoir that dampens fuel slosh to maintain a constant level available to the pump. Circuits are controlled by fuel pump relay. Once the pump is energized or the key is on. And it says it runs again once the tach signal is received. That just means the crank signal, okay? So what happens if you get in your car, you turn the ignition key on, the fuel pump will run for a couple of seconds, then it'll shut off. If you don't crank the engine. As soon as it sees a crank signal, it will run the pump again. Okay, so you try to start the engine. Pump pulsation dampening, they don't really use pulsators anymore on them, but they did on some of the older ones. Variable speed pumps can be regulated and control the voltage supplied to the pump with a resistor switch in its circuit. Some of them will have fuel pump control modules in them. Let's see that. Why are fuel pump modules spring loaded? To allow for expansion and contraction of the fuel tank, okay? You might see that tomorrow. Always make sure that the pickup is at the bottom of the tank. Just an inertia switch schematic, don't worry too much about that one. We've seen this before. This is a simple fuel pump relay circuit. High and low side drivers, we've seen these before in our other ones. Okay, again, a lot of cars do not have replaceable fuel filters anymore. Sometimes it's all done inside the gas tank with the fuel pump module, okay? If it does have a replaceable fuel filter, it should be done according to manufacturer's recommendations. Returnless types usually use a filter as part of the pump assembly. Do not have a service interval.
Diesels have the fuel filters mostly, right?
I'm sorry?
Diesels, they.
Oh, yeah,
they
diesel.
have-
The diesel will have a replaceable fuel filter, yeah, no matter what, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just learned that at Chevy. I
Did
didn't
you?
know.
Yeah. And those actually have to be replaced periodic, actually more often than it would be on a gasoline if it had a replaceable filter, yeah. Okay. Where are we at?
928.
Pump testing. A lot of cars now will display fuel pressure on the scan tool, so you don't have to hook up a mechanical gauge to it like you do on some of the older ones, but they'll have a Schrader valve looking thing, almost like your tire has or your something like that to hook a fuel pressure gauge to. If the fuel pressure is acceptable, make sure there's no leak down, meaning the pressure should not drop for 5 seconds. It should hold fuel pressure in the lines even with the engine of the pump off. Dynamic pressure test, start the engine. Pressure vacuum is referenced and the pressure should change as the throttle is cycled. We're not going to do probably flow testing. Saw that one before. You can listen to see if the fuel pump is running when you turn the ignition key on. If you are in doubt as to why the car won't run, listen to see if the fuel pump is running when you turn the ignition key on. If it has a fuel pressure regulator with a vacuum hose on, you don't worry about that much anymore. Should not be any gasoline coming out of that hose when you unhook it. That was a pretty common problem. You can also do a current draw test to check a fuel pump. And how would you do that? Pretty easy. You just pull the fuel pump relay out of it, and you put your meter on amps, and put the meter leads where terminals 30 and 87 would go. and it'll send the current right through the meter, and you can do an amperage draw test with the meter. But as you're doing that, the fuel pump's gonna run, okay? All right. Do it just like that. Pull the fuel pump relay up with the terminals on, meter leads on 30 and 87 in the fuse panel. You get a current draw of the pump. Fuel pump replacement, again, you gotta drop the gas tank on almost everything. Some trucks, you can just lift the bed up if you wanted to. That's the way I do it on some of them. Sometimes it's easier just to lift the bed up to get to it rather than dropping the tank out of it. All right. How are you doing? You done? Yeah? Good, done? How about you? No? Got a couple more? All right. Ready? Hmm?
You ready?
Just one minute. She has two more to do. How's it going back there? You good?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you guys are waiting on me, I'm good, I'm good.
All right, let's go.
A good fuel pump supply, or a good fuel pump should supply how much fuel per minute? D.
Okay?
Number 2, the amperage draw of an electric fuel pump is lower than lower than specified. What is the most likely cause? A.
Is it D?
Lower than specified. So you're doing an amperage draw test on it, and it says it should draw 7 to 9 amps, let's say. And it is 4. Most likely, what's causing that problem? What'd you say it was?
He said A.
A?
What's A?
A it is. Tell me why it's A.
Amperage.
Okay, but,
Corrosion creates resistance.
okay. That works. What would a clogged fuel filter do?
Wouldn't
Would it
work.
cause the amperage to be higher or lower than it should be?
Higher because it's working harder.
Higher because it's straining, right, to try to push through a clogged filter. Restriction of fuel line do the same thing, right? Stuck fuel pump with power blade, same thing. The pump's trying to run, but it can't, so the amperage draw would be way high, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, give me a question similar to that on the test, so keep paying attention to what causes high and low amperage draw on the pump. Okay, number 3.
Oh. I'm going both.
You got both. Okay. Fuel lines are either, or fuel tanks are either steel or polyethylene plastic, contain anti-substituent device. Yep, okay.
Number 4 is I got A.
Number 4, you got A. Because fuel lines are not ABS plastic, right? You have a roller protection device, of course it is. Number 5. It's all you, Ted.
The ORVR system is designed to make refueling faster. False.
Absolutely right. It's not designed to make it faster, it's designed to recover the fuel vapor when you're refueling your vehicle.
On the General Motors vehicle, how long will the fuel pump run if the ignition is turned on but the engine is not started? A.
1 to 2 seconds is how long it'll run, and then it'll shut off if you do not crank the engine.
For number 5, it says decreased size neck in the open air package allows fuel and vapor to flow rapidly into the tank and the canister respectively.
What are you talking about? Number 5?
Yeah,
Okay, what about it?
for the ORVR system, it's
Uh-huh.
designed to make refueling faster. It says the decreased size and neck in the open air passage allows fuel and vapor to flow rapidly into the tank and the canister respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So how is number 5 fall?
Because it's not designed to make refueling faster. They don't care how fast you have to refuel or slow you have to refuel it. All they care about is the vapor gets recovered. Because of that system, the vapor will rapidly get purged as the fuel tank fills.
Seven on the test.
Yep.
Yeah, should be familiar with that by now. Okay, we should be on
Tiffany.
7, right? What do you think for
Fuel
7?
lines are constructed from D.
From D, right? Seamless steel tubing or nylon plastic.
Where is the electric fuel pump usually mounted fuel tank?
Hopefully nobody misses that question. That's pretty obvious. Where is the fuel pump mounted? It's inside the fuel tank, okay? Another amperage draw question. You might see this one as well. Amperage draw of electric fuel pump is higher than specified now. Whose question is number 9? Should be Joe, right?
What?
I just had 8.
The amperage draw of an electric pump is higher than specified. All the following are possible except. This is an except question?
It is an accept question. It's very similar to the other question, except it says except. And the choices are similar as well.
Well, would it be A, corroded?
Would it be A?
Because it's corroded. It can't.
Possible except.
It would be. Why is that? If it was corroded, it would be too low. Bad connection, high resistance. These would all cause it to be high.
What did we get for number 8?
Number
Sorry?
8?
8.
Oh, B, fuel tank.
All right, well, number 10, Charles, what you got?
What prevents the fuel pump inside the fuel tank from catching at the gas line on fire? Is it all of the above?
It is not all of the above.
Then
Then it's what?
B.
B, yeah. Yep. It's an electric motor, it's submerged in gasoline, what keeps it from catching on fire? Gotta have air, right? No air in around the motor brush, which is the electrical contacts for the armature. All right, 79B. Okay. The lines are constructed of, this one you'll probably see later, you should know this one by now. This question you'll probably see tomorrow. In fact, you will for sure see it. What's the answer to number 2?
B.
What is it?
Is it B?
Negative.
Both. So this is an A.
What is it?
Spring loaded for expansion, right? B.
Yes.
That's what I said the first time. You said negative.
Oh, that's not, I heard you correct. I think I heard you say D, but
No, I said B.
my ears aren't working very good today.
No, you're good.
Went swimming yesterday and I got water in my ear and I can't hear very good. I still got a little water in my ear. Driving me crazy.
Electric fuel
All right, we did that one, right?
pump. That's A.
Fuel pump's located inside fuel tank. Electric pump
Fuel
is
tank.
mounted.
Fuel tank, same question.
All
False.
22 seconds after you turn the key on, the pump will run if you don't crank the engine. Fuel filters are located in the fuel supply line. Like he said, the fuel filters are located in the fuel return line. Where is the fuel filter if it has one?
In the fuel pump.
No, the fuel filter is usually, if, in the diesels, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but isn't it, at the line right there?
It's A only.
A only. So wouldn't, the filter can't be in the line.
A only, right?
The-
Yeah.
the-
What good would it do to be in the return line? The fuel's already gone through the engine and the fuel injectors and all that, right? You want to filter it in the supply line before it gets to the injectors. Wouldn't do any good to do it, filter it afterwards, right? All right. We did that one.
D. D.
And we did that one. All right. Next chapter is the components, operation, and this would get a lot easier if it was just one system, everybody use it, this is how it is. This would be so much easier to learn and teach. But it's just not the way it is.
We do that both ways.
Mm-hmm. Sure. See what we got here. Fuel filter, if you ever heard the term sock, they're talking about that little strainer thing that goes on the fuel pump inside the tank, on the fuel pump, they call it a sock sometimes. All right, not that important, 70 to 100 microns, I believe is what that one is. If it is tripped, which type of safety device keeps the electric fuel pump from operating?
Inertia switch.
Mm-hmm. The lines are constructed from D, we did that one. No air on the motor brushes for 4, we did that one.
0 to 6, 0.6, it says.
D for 5. 6 is gonna be on the test, and it is B only. 20 microns for the fuel filter.
Is it 20?
Mm-hmm. Corroded electrical connector for 8A. Inside the gas tank for 9. Corroded electrical connectors for 10. Okay, this is going to go through some different types of fuel injection systems. Some of these are old and you don't see them anymore. What you're going to see almost on everything now is on chapter 81, which is GDI, or gasoline direct injection. Okay? All right. So some of this stuff, again, you don't see anymore, it's older stuff, but if you go through it anyway, you can still have to know about how certain things work and how things used to be. Cars are always evolving, things are being changed, and again, there's a whole lot of stuff that could be talked about in things like this, but unfortunately, it's not simple to do because there's so many different types of systems. And almost everything's gone to gasoline direct injection now, so chapter 81 is going to be more relevant for what you guys are going to see on a regular basis than this one will be. All right, how we take is measured in fuel injection system, throttle body, or fuel injection systems, how they work, function of fuel pressure regulator, vacuum bias regulator. Returnless systems, how injectors function, and describe a central port injection. I haven't used that one in years either. Modes of fuel injection operation, how idle speed is controlled. Now it's all controlled by the throttle body through your throttle actuator control. No more idle air control valves like they were on the older systems. They used a computer and fuel injection systems to control the operation of the injectors. Most of them share the following. We'll have an electric fuel pump. Some will have an electric and mechanical fuel pump. All the GDI systems have that. They have a high pressure fuel pump that's driven off of typically a camshaft and a cylinder head to boost the pressure. You can have a fuel pump relay, some sort of regulator, and fuel injectors. PCM controls them by pulsing the injectors on and off and operating the fuel pump relay circuit. Well, you won't see any more throttle body injection. That's been going for quite a while. Port fuel injection, there's still some out there. Nothing really new though. Okay. injector for each cylinder, electric pump and tank. These typically run 40, 50 pounds of fuel pressure. Of this type of system, I wish I could just give you one specification and say this is what fuel pressure is supposed to be for every car in the world. Just can't happen that way. Okay, this is an old throttle body injection system. We haven't used that since the 90s. Used to have the injectors on the top here, so you could actually watch these spray fuel into the throttle body. On a port fuel injection system, there is an injector for each cylinder in the port. Sprays fuel pretty much right at the intake valve. The density systems we've talked about before, those do not use a mass airflow sensor. They'll use a map throttle position, temperature, oxygen sensor, that kind of stuff. Mass airflow sensor, pretty much everything has a map and a mass airflow now. The basic methods is airflow and speed density. Computer controls pulses of the injectors in two ways, either synchronized or non-synchronized. If it uses synchronized modes of injector pulses once for each distributed reference pulse, meaning as each cylinder fires. Non-synchronized are pulsed at a given period, which varies according to calibration, independent of RPM signal, or what they're referring to as RPM. Fuel pressure regulators, they work like pretty much any fuel pressure regulator does. Some of them have vacuum lines on them, some do not. Advantage support fuel injection related to characteristics of intake manifolds, we've been through that as well. The intake manifolds on a port fuel injection system just bring in air. Injector is in the port, almost directly into the combustion chamber. On a direct injection system or GDI system, the gasoline is injected directly into the combustion chamber, which we will get to in the next chapter. Different types of firing of injectors, we don't worry too much about those. View of a fuel injector. This is a port fuel injection system. Typically, the injector is going to be within 3 inches of the intake valve. The regulator. That will work together with fuel pump to maintain the required pressure drop at the injector tips. The fuel injector pressure is modulated by a combination of spring pressure, manifold vacuum acting on diaphragm. If it is vacuum biased, which again, we don't see too much of anymore. Okay. Primary reason why many port fuel injected systems use a vacuum control fuel pressure regulator is to ensure there's a constant pressure drop across the injectors, because manifold vacuum changes as you accelerate. On an electronic returnless fuel system, the power driver contains a high current transistor that controls the pump speed using injector pulse width modulation. The fuel pressure at the rail is sensed by a pressure transducer, meaning just a sensor that tells the PCM what fuel pressure is, and it will adjust the speed of the fuel pump to maintain the pressure through a fuel pump speed control module or a fuel pump control module. Pretty exciting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, mechanical returnless system. This has a bypass regulator to control the rail pressure, rail meaning the part where the fuel injectors go into. Set by an in-tank pump. Employs a constant fuel rail pressure in this type. This one will have an inline filter with an internal pressure regulator. And of course, there's more. Demand delivery system. Fuel pump, low-cost high-performance bypass regulator are used within the appropriate fuel sender. Provides a precise quantity of fuel to the fuel rail as fuel is consumed. This vendor regulator is actually part of the fuel pump module assembly inside the fuel tank. Why are some fuel injector rails rectangle shaped? I don't know if anybody's ever asked that question before, but it was for noise. Some of the Fords use those. Actually, a lot of people went to them later, but dampen fuel system pulsations and noise caused by the injectors opening and closing. Your fuel injector is an electromagnetic device containing an armature spring-loaded needle valve or ball valve. Injector opens the same amount each time it's energized. We talked about that before. It doesn't open a little bit. If it needs a little more fuel or a lot, okay, it opens the same amount every time it's energized. The amount of fuel injected depends on the length of the time the injector is open. Multi-port fuel injector looks just like the one on the table that we've looked at many times before. This is a machine that will test flow and spray pattern, which we don't have, so we don't have to worry about that. You can do a flow rate check on injectors with a scan tool and a fuel pressure gauge, so that's a possible test. The central port, haven't used that one since the 90s. There's going to be a test question on this particular one, and here's what you're going to say. Central port injector uses what type of injector? You're going to say it's a poppet nozzle. Okay? All right. They look like that. They call them spider injectors sometimes, for obvious reasons. 6-cylinder one, and they probably show an 8-cylinder one now.
And that was a poppet nozzle, correct?
That is correct on a central port fuel injection system, or CPI. All fuel injection systems are designed to supply the correct amount of fuel under a wide range of engine operating conditions, such as when you start the car. Clear flow we talked about before. If you open the throttle all the way and crank the engine, it should not start. Injector pulse is shut off or greatly reduced, so the engine will not run. Open loop we talked about too. PCM determines injector pulse width without feedback from the oxygen sensor. Closed loop is just the opposite. That is when the oxygen sensor has warmed up and the PCM is now using information from the oxygen sensor for fuel injector pulse width numbers. Acceleration enrichment mode, obviously when you accelerate you gotta have more fuel. Deceleration, when you let off the throttle when you're driving down the road, a lot of times the injectors will shut off, the engine doesn't need fuel anymore. It will give it just enough to keep it from stalling. Shut off mode. Deceleration as well, and being run once you shut the ignition off. Idle control, there's no more IAC valve or idle air control, it's all done through the throttle actuator control on the newer vehicles. We've seen the idle air control valve before used on the older port fuel injection systems. All this would do is open and close an alternate air passage for the engine to get air before the throttle blade. So as this opened and closed, it would let more or less air into the engine, and it would control the idle speed that way. They worked okay. It wasn't great, but the electronic actuator control systems work a lot better. Use a stepper motor, it's all right. Okay. After lunch, we'll get to the one that you're gonna see more, which is the direct injection. What'd you bring for us? Nothing for us, right? There you go. How are we doing on that?
Okay.
Looks like there's some more still working on that. You let me get you a bed instead of a chair? Never seen you sit up in that chair 1 minute. You're always laying down. Can't even see you. Hide behind a computer screen. Come on, man, there you go. Looks like there's only 6 people in here. Where's Terrence at? Who won in bowling? Who's the better bowler?
Nah, he didn't win.
Here we go. Nah, he didn't win.
Somebody else that we went with.
Give me a Mazda.
I didn't play, so
Oh, you didn't play?
I don't play.
You don't know how to throw a ball in the tennis?
I do, but it's like my dilemma with bowling. I got my bowling. I'll roll it home, but it always curves to the left. I can't break my.
Supposed to put the spin on it, man.
I don't know how to do that.
I don't
It's easy.
It's easy.
I can't break my.
So you gotta, so when you, I didn't put all my fingers in it, I put only the 2 in the middle.
Oh, really?
And then I flick it, and then so it goes this way, and then it's the blue.
Yeah. You ever see the pro bowlers? Every one of them, they get
Hey.
that spin.
I got my bowling ball in my car right now. I'll come up here and show them how to do it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm so serious.
Nice.
I got my bowling ball in my car.
coworkers one time, they invited me, and then they were like, good, and I was like, he gets 2 hands, he just spins it, it just.
I've seen them do that too, where they'll just take it and
Mhm.
And they just.
do like that, yeah.
It gives it a tighter curve.
Started going with them more often.
Yeah.
I think from years back.
And you're like, oh, that thing's going in the gutter. Oh, no, here it comes. Yep. Do they still have that cosmic bowling they used to have years ago? You guys ever heard of
Sometimes.
that?
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually got it.
Yeah,
Some places do it, but only on specific days.
yeah.
I know Santa Fe does, not Santa Fe, the one on, Suncoast.
Yeah.
Over there on, Rancho and, Lone Mountain.
I only go to South, some places.
Oh, yeah.
The Orleans, I don't really like it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it.
I used to go all the time when I was younger. Quite a bit. I haven't been quite a while, but I was never really that good. A good game for me would be like 160. So I wasn't too good.
That's really good. 250, 160 or 250?
No, 160. Yeah. Normal for me would be about like 125. If I did really good, I'd get a 160,
My
maybe
normal was
170.
90.
Yeah.
What's the max score you can get?
What's that?
What's the max score you can get above
300.
a grip?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's if you strike every.
Yeah, you had to get every
not
single
missing
serve.
one pin.
I got a 270 before.
Did you really?
Yeah, I blow a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn, this guy knows what's up.
I've been blowing in a while, so.
Yeah. Okay, let's run through these real quick and we'll take a lunch break. Okay. Start us off.
Which term describes the PCM shutting off fuel injection when the accelerator is pressed all the way down? Is it closed loop mode?
What?
Couldn't find it. Clear flood?
Yeah, of course. If it's gonna shut off the injectors. Yeah. Clear flood. Everybody get A for that one, hopefully. If you didn't, change it. Okay.
Number 2, technician A says that vehicles with electronic returnless fuel systems use pulse width modulation to power the fuel pump and maintain fuel pressure. Technician B says that the electronic returnless fuel system uses a power transistor to control the fuel pump. Which technician is correct? Don't know.
Okay, who is it?
B?
He might be one of the correct answers.
Both.
Both of them. Okay. How about 3?
Technician A says that, once we will inject the system, we use a PCM to control it. Once we will inject it, technician B says that once we will inject this, use that PCM to control the operation of the fuel pump relay. It's both.
Okay. So all it's asking is the PCM used to control the injectors and the fuel pump relay? Of course it is. It does it all. All right. Number 4. Number 4, you got C, huh? All right. All injectors in a sequential fuel injection system often use the same power wire. They do. And they have a different ground wire because each injector is fired sequentially. Okay,
Number 5.
number 5.
Firestone fuel rails, rectangular in shape, reducing noise.
That is the one, reduces noise.
Which type of port fuel injection groups the injector into 2 groups, with each group firing once per crankshaft revolution? A.
You might see that question tomorrow, and it is A.
Number 6.
Number 6, you will see tomorrow. Okay, number 7.
All of these are returnless fuel systems, except D.
They're all returnless systems, yeah. There is no except.
Which type of port fuel injection fires all injectors at the same time, once per crankshaft revolution, simultaneous double fire? No. Sequential fire.
I want to see if this one is on, okay, so, what'd you get, A for 8?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
okay.
is it sequential fire?
No, it's A.
Oh, it is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The statement is correct for number 9. Kind of a stupid question, right? Dirt's most likely to be found bottom of the tank, right? Where else is it gonna go? A for 9. What determines the amount of fuel injected when an injector opens? The length of the time it's open, yep. All right. See you
What was
after
9, I'm
lunch.
sorry?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What was 9?
A.
Ouch.